This yin yoga sequence begins with some grounding, light movement and breath work. And then we segue into a yin sequence that includes half frog, dragon, melting heart pose, and twisted root pose. So some props that are always useful is gather up maybe a couple of pillows, a few blankets, and you might even find a blanket roll handy. Other things, couch cushions, chairs, always useful in practice. So maybe gather things up, find your intention for practice, and then we'll begin. So we can begin by getting grounded. This means start by finding a comfortable seat. It can be cross-legged, the way I'm sitting, or maybe another seat fits your body better, so that way. But once you find that seat, make sure it feels stable. You can feel the contact points between your lower body and the ground, and maybe energetically, and just for a moment, engage muscles in your core and your torso to lengthen your spine back to its nice neutral position here. Just for maybe a breath or two, and then you can soften everything again, and then notice your breath. So this is finding your center. This is finding your ground here. So two more gentle breaths here, and then if you would like, we can do a little bit of neck work here. So grow up tall through your torso again. Tuck your chin and begin to very slowly rock your head over one shoulder. And then slowly back to center. And then rock your neck slowly over the other shoulder. Maybe pause and then come back to center. And just continue this gentle rocking back and forth. And notice the pressure points. Notice if there's any points of strain while you do this here. And notice you can maybe even sync this with your breath. Maybe you inhale when you come back to center and exhale when you go over to a side. If it's okay with your neck, if you think it is, maybe you can do complete circles. So when you get over one side of your neck, keep rolling all the way back and over the other side, only if this is acceptable for your neck. Come back to center, maybe do another slow circle. If the circles aren't working, maybe just go back to nodding back and forth. And then at some point, change directions. So the next time your chin reaches your sternum, pause and then begin to roll the other way. Maybe just 2, maybe just 3 circles. Slow enough so that you can notice the sensations, the traction, the strain that might be generated as you roll. Next time your chin reaches your sternum, go ahead and stop and then slowly raise your head back up. Maybe grow tall again, and then we'll try a little bit of 3-part breath work here. So maybe a normal natural breath to begin with, and then after your next exhale a little bit more out, and then when you inhale and visualize yourself filling up the first third of your torso, so base to bottom third. Continue to inhale and fill up your waist, your lower ribs. Continue to inhale and fill up your upper ribs, your upper torso. As you exhale from top to bottom. So soften your upper torso first. Exhale and release your waist. Exhale and release your low abdomen, and then continue again. So inhale, fill up the bottom third of your torso. Inhale, fill up the middle third. Continue to inhale and fill up the upper third. And then exhale top to bottom. So upper third relaxes, next third releases, bottom third releases, and then inhale again, filling up the first third, inhale, second third, inhale, full torso, exhale, top third, exhale, middle third, exhale, bottom third, and continue this deeper breathing for the next few breaths. So inhale in 3 parts till your torso is full, not strainful, but just complete. And then as you exhale, visualize the breath leaving your body from top to bottom. So a few more breaths here. So a few more rounds of this kind of breathing, maybe for these final few rounds. See if you can combine the three separate parts into one gigantic wave of breath. One that starts at the base of your torso and completely fills it up at the end of your inhale, and then one that starts at the top of your torso and completely empties the bottom of your torso. One more of these deep cycle breathing, and when you get done with the next exhale, then allow yourself to just come back to whatever your normal natural breath was. Notice that. Notice how that's doing at the moment. And then we'll get started. We'll get started with the yin sequence. And the first long-held yin posture that we'll be holding is a yin posture known as half frog here. So what you'll do is you'll come to seated, maybe legs out in front. And if you're like me and you have a lot of tightness in the back of your torso, maybe you want to sit up on a little bit of height. I'm already sitting up on a blanket here. Legs straight and out front. And then we'll start off with the left leg. So bend the left knee, bring the left heel back, and see if you can bring the left heel on the outside of your left hip. Left knee comes out wide. Right leg is still extended. It can be straight if it wants to be, but if it is too strainful being straight, you can always take something to place underneath that knee to keep it slightly bent. I have a blanket roll here. Maybe you want to sit up on a little bit higher height. Maybe this doesn't work for you. Maybe there's too much pain in this knee or this ankle, or you're not very well internally rotated for half frog. So an alternative to this pose is to do half butterfly. This is a different posture to do, but if this is more accessible and not painful, then maybe it's a better version to do than half frog. Otherwise, we'll stick with half frog. Now, if you're feeling a lot here, you can stay here. But if you want a little bit more oomph, then the next stage is to add a forward fold to this. So again, this will stay here for about 3 minutes. Maybe grow up tall through your torso for a moment, and then hinge forward and then soften and relax the muscle fiber in your torso. Let your spine round and release until you find your natural stopping point. So the principles of yin are relaxed muscle fiber and then long-held traction in the connective tissue system. We approach this through 3 principles here. The first principle is called finding your edge. So you move your body into a yoga posture. You find that place where your body naturally stops, and when you start to feel sensation, not injury, not pain, not trauma, just sensation. It can be uncomfortable at times. It just can't be harmful here. And what we'll find is that all of us have unique bodies. So the final shape that we actually make is actually different. So find your shape here, something that you think you can maybe stay in for a while, which is the second principle. Second principle is once you've found your edge, now you cultivate the patience and the endurance to stay. There's a lot of exceptions to the stillness rule. One of them is if you're feeling injury or pain in a posture, then it means you need to change or modify the posture or come out and rest. All you're going to do if you stay in the posture feeling pain is injure yourself, and that's usually not very productive here. So the other thing is if you're feeling nothing at all, maybe you're in a nice shape, but you're kind of just posing and bored. There's no sensation going on. That's telling you that you can go ahead and move more deeply into the posture. Maybe after a minute or 2 you can sink more deeply into the forward fold. Notice where you're generating sensations and then adjust accordingly. So my 1-point anecdote here is as I move forward, deeper into a forward fold like this, the sensations are not increasing in my torso. They're increasing in this extended leg. I'm also feeling lots of goodly pressure in this other leg here. So we just have about 5 more breaths on this side. If you're feeling too much strain, you can come out. We've already been here for about 2.5 minutes or so. Otherwise, You see if you can find the patience to stay for a few more breaths, and that brings us to the final principle, and that's time. So time is the workhorse. Time is the magic in the yin style of practice here. So once we found our edge, once we've decided we'll stay and just watch our breath, our sensations, then we use time here. The time is almost up. Maybe just one more breath here on this side. If you folded forward, plant your hands and use your hands and your arms to bring yourself all the way up. Maybe you have to wiggle your torso around to work out the kinks. And then maybe lean back and release that left leg here. This between the long-held yin postures, you can do some sort of organic motion to work out the kinks. In the end, it should be determined by you what you would like to do. I will offer counter poses. I have a really yang one that you can try if you wish. It's called Wild Thing. And so for Wild Thing, bend the right knee, put the right foot on the floor. Left leg is straight. And then bring the left arm behind you, root the hand into the ground, about 6 inches from your hips. Right arm comes up towards the ceiling, and then root through your left heel, right foot, and left hand, and then lift your hips up just as far as they go. Don't worry about how far they go. You're just going until you can't go anymore. So this is a very yang posture, and then bring yourself back down. And then we'll do the other side of half frog here. So come back to seated, legs extended out front. Now it's the right leg. So bend the right leg and bring the right heel on the outside of the right hip. Right knee can go out wide. Left leg is extended. It can be straight, or if it needs to be flexed, you can put some sort of, I've got a blanket roll here, so that goes under the left leg. Grow up tall through your torso. By the way, you can stay here if you wish, or if you want to, you can fold forward any amount. And if you don't fold forward very far, and that's very strainful for you, you can always get a chair and maybe lean against the chair here, or you can get a couch cushion too. It's fine also to hang in mid-air if that's appropriate for you. So find your stopping point here for this other side. And we'll stay here for a few minutes. Again, give yourself permission to come out if you need to come out early. Again, I'm running the stopwatch for 3 minutes, but 1 or 2 minutes is a good enough time to stay in these postures here. So at the time of this recording, which is about mid-April in the Northern Hemisphere, at kind of a typical moderate latitude of about 34 degrees north latitude. In the evenings, late evenings, around 10 p.m., if you look south, in a very clear, dark sky where you can see the stars. Right now above us is a very, very bright constellation, one of the most recognizable constellations of the zodiac, and it's the constellation Leo. Cancer is there too, and so is Gemini. But Cancer, right next to Leo, is very faint constellations. You can barely see any of the stars there. Leo the lion, however, is a very recognizable asterism of very bright stars. In fact, it's been recognized as a lion in Western civilized culture since before antiquity. So we have about another minute here to go in this posture. Maybe check your breath. Maybe check your sensations and where you are in the posture. Maybe you can readjust your edge here. So Leo the lion, known in ancient cultures all the way over to India, in fact even ancient India, saw these asterisms of bright stars as a lion. And so the stars are bright enough that you can easily recognize them. You start with the front group of stars that look like a big backwards question mark. This is known as the sickle, and it's probably where you want to start when you actually want to try to find and identify Leo the lion. So it's the head is upper part of the question mark, and then the front shoulders that make up the lion is made up by a very bright star known as Regulus. So Regulus is bright, one of the brighter stars, because it's relatively close. So Regulus is a blue supergiant star, a B-type star, that's only 78 light years from the Earth, from the Sun. So it's in our relative neighborhood, and that's the main reason why it's so bright here. And it's the lion heart. If you try to form a picture of a lion lying on its haunches here, then Regulus would be right at its front shoulders here. And it is by far the brightest star in Leo. So it's good to find Regulus here. One more breath. And then at some point, if you folded forward, slowly come out of your forward fold first. Grow up tall through your torso, maybe work out a little bit of the kinks here. And then when you're ready, lean away from the bent leg and undo the half frog leg there. You can bob your knees up and down, you can point and flex your feet, you can do wigglings around. This is the counterpose times. We'll do wild thing on this side if you would like to do it here. So bend the left knee, put the left foot on the floor next to the right knee. Right leg is extended, bring the right arm up and around, plant the right hand behind the hips about 6 inches, left arm comes up alongside the torso, and then on a big inhale, use the inhale to press your hips up as you root through the contact points in the ground. And you just come up as high as you can here, and then slowly bring yourself down. And then make any of the little wiggles. This is the transition period, the counterpose time here. And then we'll make our way into the next posture. The next in posture is known as dragon pose here. So make your way onto hands and knees. Come on to all fours. So dragon pose is a low lunge. You'll bring your left foot up in between your hands. Inch the right knee back here. And then untuck the right foot. So this is basic dragon pose. Now there might be some issues with this pose. Maybe that back knee and back ankle. Feeling too much pressure on the ground. So you can put a blanket underneath that. Maybe your hands don't quite reach the ground. So if that's the case, go find a couple of books and place enough books underneath your hands so that you can actually ground them into the floor here. You can also move this upper knee around a little bit. And if all of this is not working for you for dragon pose, you can do what I call upside down dragon pose. So slowly come out of dragon pose. Bring yourself onto your back. Right leg is straight and draw the left knee into your torso. If this is enough pressure, you stay here. Otherwise, you can come into a full inverted dragon, which is basically half happy baby pose. And you can stay here. Otherwise, if dragon pose is accessible to you, we'll spend a few more minutes here in dragon pose. Remember, you're just staying for as long as you wish to stay here. So there's a lot of mythical metaphor in the constellation Leo, the lion, that comes from Western antiquity. In fact, creatures like lions and tigers have always represented the extroverted masculine, which is the dominant traits of our world cultures. So Leo the lion very much symbolizes mythologically and metaphorically the traits that we like in our culture. The extroverted, the young, the active, the superficial, the obvious. And so it makes for a good symbol, and it's prominent in the evening skies right now. So if you have a clear sky and you're looking to recognize bright asterism, the sickle Regulus, the rest of the lion's body. By the way, there's another bright star. The second brightest star in Leo is called Benevola. It means the tail of the lion. And so it lies to the left. It lies a little ways to the left of Regulus. So if you can find Regulus and look to the left, you can find Benevola. You can find the tail of the lion. Turns out there's a lot of interesting deep sky objects in Leo. There's in that whole area of the sky, there's an abundance of galaxies, beautiful spirals and giant ellipticals. And so you'll often see pictures, maybe taken by the Hubble Space Telescope, of these beautiful, beautiful galaxies that you find in Leo. Turns out a lot of studies have been done finding extrasolar planets. So Leo, again, is filled with a lot of stars that we now know have their own planets. But also the constellation that's next to Leo. It's actually the next zodiacal constellation, Virgo. Virgo also is known for extrasolar planets. Virgo is also known for an abundance of beautiful galaxies as well. So just one more breath here on this side of Dragon. And then when you're ready to come out of Dragon, come out slowly and gently, however you would like. Now you can plant both of your hands, tuck the back toe, lift the back knee, and slowly begin to press yourself gently up into downward facing dog, which is a yang posture. You can just stay here for a while to lengthen out through your torso. Maybe take your dog for a walk here. Maybe you don't like downward facing dogs, so do something else for a while. Come back to a nice stable downward facing dog. We can try silent lion here. So silent lion is the lion's pose without the roaring. Lion's pose is where you expand your face in all directions. So while you're here in downward facing dog, open up your eye sockets to expand in all directions. Open up the sides of your face to expand in all directions. Open up your mouth and stick out your tongue and just keep moving your face away from your nose here, without making a sound. That's what I call silent lion here. Maybe one more time. And then when you're ready, release silent lion, bring yourself down onto all fours, and we'll get into the other side of dragon pose. So from all fours, it's now the other foot that moves up. It's the left knee back. See how this pose is working for you. Maybe you need padding under that knee. Maybe you need books underneath your hands. Maybe you need to rearrange this front knee. Maybe this is all too painful and you need to try upside down dragon. By the way, for those of you who are not feeling much in regular dragon, you can always try low flying dragon by bringing this right leg out to the right and bringing your forearms down onto the ground here. This is also known as lizard pose here. But for a lot of us, maybe basic dragon is enough. So we'll stay here. Stay here for a few minutes. So a lot of the zodiac constellations, unfortunately, are faint. Cancer, unfortunately, is one of the faintest constellations, Cancer the crab, which is also in some cultures known as the tortoise. Leo the lion comes from our Western culture that comes from Europe, Western Asia. In Native American culture here in the US, Leo the lion, the sickle part, is often seen as a fireplace. The fire in a sweat lodge, so it symbolizes purification. Next to Leo the lion, there's a giant constellation or area of the sky known as Virgo. It's the next constellation in the zodiac. Now, there's not terribly many bright stars in Virgo, except for one, and that star is called Spica. Spica, literally translated from Latin, means ear of grain. Spica is a double star. It's a very bright star, and it's bright not because it's close, because it's made up of two blue B-type supergiant stars. They're very close to each other, revolve around each other in such a way, they're so close that they distort each other's gravity. If we could actually resolve them and take a close-up picture of them, they would probably both look egg-shaped as their gravity tugs on each other. So Spica, the only bright star in Virgo, and Virgo is huge constellation. It's the second largest constellation that's been officially recognized by astronomical union here. So we have about 5 more breaths here on this side of Dragon. As I mentioned earlier, Virgo itself has a plethora of beautiful galaxies in here. In fact, it's home to the Virgo supercluster, which we belong to. So our own Milky Way galaxy that we live in belongs to a local group of galaxies. It includes the small and large Magellanic Clouds. It includes galaxies like Andromeda. But that local group of galaxies belongs to a larger group of galaxies that contains up to 2,000 galaxies, and it's known as the Virgo supercluster. So part of our cosmic address is the Virgo supercluster. And at the center of that Virgo supercluster is a massive galaxy known as M87. And M87 is this huge elliptical galaxy. It's one of the largest galaxies in the entire universe. And there we now know lives a supermassive black hole that's 6.5 billion times the mass of our own sun. In fact, we took a picture of it last year around this time. Just one more breath here and then we need to start coming out of dragon pose. So slowly and surely you can bring yourself out however you wish. If you're liking the downward facing dog counter pose, you can move yourself up into downward facing dog. Maybe stay there for a while or do something else, maybe light gentle movement. So movement, nice counter pose to the stillness of the yin postures. And then at some point, maybe a few breaths here before we move on to the next yin posture. So the next yin posture is a posture known as melting heart pose. So watch the demo for this posture. If you think it's going to generate too much strain in the upper torso, because that's what the intention of the posture is. And you can always do a heart opening posture on a blanket, which I'll demonstrate after melting heart. So for melting heart, you'll make your way onto hands and knees, onto all fours, knees comfortable, hip width apart, and you might want extra padding on your knees here. And then from table, you just walk your arms out, shoulder width or maybe slightly wider. Melt your heart so you're lowering your sternum towards the ground as far as it goes until everything stops. Eventually, you'll relax your forearms and your hands even though they're rooted into the ground. And you let your back sag into a back bend until you feel a lot pressure in your upper torso, in your upper back, and in your shoulders here. This is the intention of melting heart. Now for some of us, this is a little bit too much pressure in the shoulders, in which case you come out of this posture. You can take a blanket roll if you have one and lay back on the blanket roll crosswise with the blanket underneath your thoracic spine. You won't get the stress in your shoulders, but you will get the reverse pressure in your upper torso. So that's a lovely alternative here. Otherwise, just like with any other posture, see how long you can stay here and just notice the traction in the upper torso here. So we'll stay here a couple more minutes here in melting heart, and remind yourself you can come out of a posture whenever you need to. You're just staying as long as it's accessible and not painful. It can be slightly uncomfortable as long as you're not hurting yourself here. So if you're searching for bright stars in the night sky, Leo the Lion is a good asterism of bright stars to try to find in the south, high in the southern sky. If you're looking to the east,
then you can maybe find an asterism of 4 bright stars known as the Diamond of Virgo. So one of these stars is one I've already talked about. It's Spica. Spica is the lower point to the Diamond of Virgo. Another star is Denebola. It's the tail of the lion in the constellation Leo. And then the third star is off to the north. It's called Arcturus, and Arcturus is actually a very, very bright star. It's in the constellation Beutes. And then the fourth star is a star that's called Coracorelli, and it's in the constellation Canis Venusete. Canis Venusete basically means hunting dog. It's a small constellation, and Coracorelli is the only bright star in there. But those 4 stars make up this huge diamond asterism, which is maybe a good thing to try to find in the night sky. As big as it is, and as big as the constellation Virgo herself is, in Eastern astronomy, in Eastern philosophy, the sky is made up of a different pattern of stars. And Virgo, Spica, that whole area of the sky, indeed the area of the sky that hasn't even risen yet in the evenings, is part of one of 4 giant constellations that the Chinese have broken the sky up into to represent the 4 seasons. So Spica and Virgo represent the head of a gigantic dragon known as the Dragon of the East. And Spica is the eye of the Azure Dragon, the blue dragon of the East. To give you an example of just how huge this constellation is, the heart of the dragon is the star Antares, which is in the constellation Scorpius, which doesn't rise above the horizon in the evening for another few months. So it's it's a quarter of the sky that this dragon takes up here. So just one more breath here, melting heart. When you're ready to come out, engage your hands and your arms, press yourself slowly up into all fours, and then press yourself back into a child's pose. Your favorite version of child's pose. So it can be knees together, it can be knees mat width apart, arms can be forward, but I would suggest try your arms, if you really did stay for 3 minutes in melting heart posture, try swinging your arms back to let your shoulders droop forward. And then just rest here. By the way, you can put a pillow underneath your head if your head doesn't reach the ground here. This is the counter pose. So we're only here for a few breaths just to feel the reverberation and some of the relief from getting out of melting heart pose. You can do something else if you wish. A few more breaths here, and we'll move on to the next yin posture. So when you're ready, the next yin posture is a spinal twist known as twisted roots. So you'll make your way to lying on your back. Bend both knees, place both feet on the floor. Head, neck, shoulders comfortably lying on the ground here. And then raise your right thigh and wrap it around your left thigh. Make twisted roots legs here. Can kind of range things till it's accessible here. We'll be twisting, lowering the knees over to the left. So you might want to shift your hips over to the right slightly just to make it easier to twist. And then very gently lower your knees over to the left as far as they go until they stop. Now if they're floating and uncomfortable, maybe find some support to place under your knees so that they feel supported. You can use your left hand to help create more traction by just laying it on the outside of the right thigh. Right arm is out in a T position. You can experiment with maybe raising up along your shoulder here. It's okay, you can keep your head neutral, or if it's okay with your head and your neck, you can turn and look to the right just to complete the spinal twist here. if this shoulder is floating, you can put another blanket underneath that shoulder. Otherwise, we'll stay here a couple more minutes or so. So Chinese astronomers, they made constellation based on lunar mansions. So they broke up the entire sky into 28 segments, which represented the 28 days of a lunar cycle. And of those 28 sections, they divided them up into 4 sections that each had 7 of the lunar mansions in them. So the Dragon of the East constellations has 7 of the lunar mansions in them. And it represents the season of spring, which, as of this recording of this video, it's springtime. The next section of sky is the red phoenix, which symbolizes summer. The third section is the white tiger, which represents autumn. And the fourth section is the black turtle, which symbolizes winter. But right now, what's rising in the eastern sky in the evenings is the blue dragon. And its eye is that very lonely bright star, Spica. So we have about another minute here in the twist. Maybe come back to your breath, maybe come back to your sensations. Oh, by the way, for some of us, the twisted root legs here creates too much pressure, i.e. painful pressure, maybe in the hips. If that's the case, and you would just simply like to do a spinal twist, you can always undo the twisted root legs. Bring your knees and thighs parallel to each other and just do the spinal twist without the twisted root legs. Otherwise, you get a nice little subtle hip opener, or not so subtle if you have the twisted root legs here. So maybe about 3 more breaths here on this side. Maybe come out if you're feeling too much here. Maybe one final breath. And then when you're feeling ready, bring your knees slowly back up to center. Slowly undo your twisted root legs. And then do any kind of counter pose that you would like to do to work out the kinks. Maybe it's drawing your knees into your chest. Maybe it's doing some reclined windshield wiper poses. Maybe it's waterfall. Maybe you need to come and sit up for a while. Maybe this is too long lying on your back. We do have the other side of this spinal twist to do that's coming up. So next few breaths, whatever you need to do to work out the stagnation of that one side, and then we'll do the other side of the twist. So lie on your back, knees bent, feet on the ground, and then now it's the other leg that lifts. So the left leg lifts and wrap around the right leg in the twisted root legs. If this doesn't work for you, then just keep your legs parallel and just do the spinal twist that way. Shift your hips over to the left slightly if that makes it easier to twist, and then slowly lower your knees over to the right. Again, your knees might make it to the ground, they might float. If they float and they're not in pain, then you can just let them float. If you want a little bit more traction, you can put that right hand on the left thigh. This is a spinal twist, so if you ended up on the side of your torso, let your whole upper body slowly melt back so that you know your torso is in a spinal twist. Head and neck should be accessible and comfortable here. If you want a complete twist up in your neck and it's okay with your neck, you can turn and face the left. But only if that's acceptable to your neck. If your neck is overstrained, then just keep your head neutral here. Left arm can be out in a T position, or it can be up alongside. I like putting my left arm up alongside my left ear. It gives me more of a stretch opening in my left side body, which may be too intense for some people. Once you've found your final shape, then this is yin. Settle in Allow your muscles to relax, maybe get in touch with your breath. So the final few minutes here. I find it interesting that the prominent constellation in the evening sky right now is the constellation Leo. Leo is a very Western, very, very, very extroverted and obvious constellation. It's kind of representative of global Western culture now. And right next to it is the metaphor. So that's the metaphor. And right next to it is the metaphor of the dragon, the Eastern dragon, the blue dragon of spring. The dragon being a symbol of what's not obvious, because nobody's ever seen a real dragon before, even though it plays a vital role in all of our mythologies, in all cultures. It represents the hidden, introverted world of yin. And as of the recording of this yoga practice, the whole world has had to stop and take on a very deep yin state, even though we're not used to that. We're not used to the yin. We're used to the yang. We're used to living lives of Leo the lion, rather than pausing and considering the universe from their perspective of the azure of the spring dragon. So one more minute on this side. Take stock of how you're feeling, and remember that I'm just a guy with a stopwatch here. You more valuably keep track of time by noticing how your sensations might be changing in any posture. If the sensations go away, that's your cue to move deeper in the posture. And if they get too intense to the point where you think you might be hurting yourself, then that's your cue to come out or to experiment with different versions. In this case, this is a spinal twist, so maybe there's a better spinal twist that fits your body. Just a couple more breaths on this side. When you do feel ready to come out, slowly, maybe on an inhale, and maybe even with the help of your arms, bring your legs and hip back up to center, uncross the twisted root legs, and then any kind of little counter motions that you would like to work out the kinks after that posture. Maybe knees into chest. This is a slight forward fold. This might feel good after the twist. So we're almost ready for our final posture. Almost ready for Shavasana. Maybe a little bit more integration. Any other poses or wiggling that you would like to do? Maybe we can do bound angle pose, reclined bound angle pose. So feet come together, knees go out wide. See if you can weave your hands in between your legs. Find your feet, and then just gently pull your feet in towards your hips as far as they go. If this is feeling really good, maybe just stay here. Give it a little bit extra oomph. If it's not feeling good, maybe release it a little bit. Maybe one final breath here. And then knees come back together. Maybe roll over to one side. Bring yourself into your final resting pose, final Shavasana. Now it can be traditional Shavasana, lying on your back, legs extended. If this is too strainful on your low back, try putting some height underneath your knees. Always remember that you can use a pillow for your head here in final Shavasana. But I'd like to recommend legs up the wall posture for Shavasana. So you can stay here in this type, or if you have your own favorite restorative posture, that's the one that you should be doing. Otherwise, you can try legs up the wall. So find some wall space, maybe put some padding where you're going to end up. So I have a blanket here. And then slowly make your way into legs up the wall. This is the hard part. Sometimes it takes a few tries. Sit to the side of the wall and then lean back and roll your legs up the wall. when you get there, see if you can get your hips as close to the wall as possible. Might not get all the way to the wall, but just as close. And then lengthen your legs up, extend your heels up towards the ceiling just for a moment here, and then soften everything. So this is a type of yin posture. So once you've gotten into this pose, soften your legs, soften your torso, head, neck, shoulders, arms, all comfortable here. And then soften. Soften your toes, soften your legs. Torso's relaxed. Head is quiet. So release your jaw. Relax your tongue. Teeth and gums are soft. The insides of your cheeks are released. Soften the outside of your mouth. Soften your nose and your chin. Soften the skin around your left ear and the skin around your right ear. The muscle fiber around your eye sockets, release your left eye socket, your right eye socket, that space in between your eyes. Forehead, temples, crown of your head. Release and soften your brain. Do this by postponing being a human doing. Grant yourself the permission to be a human being. Just for a moment, just for the next few minutes, have nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just notice what it's like to simply exist. Notice what it's like to be breathed with your inhales, with your exhales. Collarbones feel broad, shoulders are stable. Release your right arm, right palm, right fingers. Left arm, left palm, and left fingers. Bring your attention to the tips of all of your fingers on both hands, left and right, and see if you can notice this subtle interplay between your capillaries and your nervous system. This light tingling, this prana, this life energy in the tip of each finger. To continue to soften down through the rest of your torso. Relax your rib cage, release your abdomen. Hips and thighs are soft, knees are relaxed. Shins, calves, ankles, heels. Tops and bottoms of your feet. All of your toes on both feet. For a moment, see if you can notice that light energy, that tingling in the tip of each toe, both feet, left and right. Release, relax, and surrender your body-mind 100%. And then visualize yourself as a double star system. You're made up of two bright blue giant stars, so close to each other that you feel the connection, the gravitational force, and it's pulling both sides, both stars, towards a common center as you slowly, gracefully, lazily orbit about each other in this beautiful galaxy of ours, the Milky Way. Let that slow dance, that slow stellar choreography create a deeper sense of peace. begin to deepen your breath, you can make little motions with fingers and little motions with toes. At some point, maybe expand that motion into hands and wrists, into feet, into ankles. At some point, you can make little motions with arms. You can start making motion with legs. If you're in legs up the wall, maybe bend your knees. Place your feet on the wall and press yourself away from the wall slightly. Head and neck can start gently moving around here. At some point, roll over to one side. When you get there, stay there long enough to give yourself a big thank you for your practice and your efforts, but also a big thank you for you, your unique embodiment in the universe. The universe is ecstatically joyful that you're here. And then at some point, slowly make your way up to a comfortable seat. When you get there, find some roots, find your connection with the earth. Notice your inner ground and bring your hands together at heart center soul. I'll end practice with one chanting of Om. You can either join in or just listen to my voice. The inner starlight in me honors the inner starlight in you. Namaste.